Thank you for coming to the session after lunch. If you could please take your seat. We've got a series of fantastic case studies to share with you this afternoon. And I'd like to introduce Pham Van Hau, Sharyn Rundle-Thiele, Maree Thyne, Kirsten Robertson, and Rob Hamlin. I don't think the others are presenting though, are they?
No.
Just you. Okay, it's going to be fantastic. Reducing single-use plastics, barriers and enablers for milk. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, can I start now? Can I start now? Yes. Okay, yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Pham, from all the way from New Zealand, Dunedin, South Island. It's quite far from here. It took me like 3 flights and 4 airports to get to Canberra. So I slept at Auckland Airport overnight in the 13 and just landed in Canberra yesterday. Yeah, so this is about one of my research for my PhD. This is the second paper for my PhD. So I'm focusing on reduce single-use plastic packaging, avoiding plastic packaging, and focusing on the case of milk bottles. So we all know about the problem of plastic, which is like a lot of that also end up into landfills. The ocean is causes the worldwide environmental contamination. Also, the problem of plastic is so like we produce a lot because due to the demand. Also, the supply of plastic. We also have a lot of like single-use cups used every year as well. So it caused the global production of plastic in the statistic on a screen, which is like reached like 368 million tons. And up to like 40% of plastic production used for packaging purpose. So this is one of the solution that we propose by the EU to tackle single-use plastic packaging. So the highest of the waste hierarchy, which is like prevention, like avoiding, like don't use plastic. And the least preferred option, which is disposal. And the current practice that we normally use, which is like recycling. So after the consumer use a single-use plastic bottle, for example, you can put into the yellow bin for the recycling purpose. And some company and so like the council gonna deal with this. And we really don't know like what happens surrounding the upstream, the waste hierarchy. But in my PhD, I focus on like recycling is not really effective. Why? First, because like a significant portion of plastic waste, like for the purpose of recycling, it still end up into landfills. Why? Because like those plastic is still contaminated, and before you put those kind of plastic in the bin, you have to wash it. And not all type of plastic can be recycled. So only clear plastic can be recycled. So the color plastic can be recycled. And also like the large amount of those plastic intended for recycling also exported to developing countries from developed countries. So we just take a look here, which is like the model just shift from like developed countries to developing countries, and those countries have to deal with the plastic because the country pay for that countries. And also like recycling only move when you recycle, it turn into like downcycle products. It means like the second packaging is not good quality like the first one. And also like most of the company also like 30% of our packaging is recycled plastic. It means like the 70%, which is like you have to add new plastic into that. So it's what kind of problem, and also like I use a lot of heat, contaminating the environment as well, and the production process is quite like release carbon dioxide kind of things. And also it put quite a lot of like challenges for the waste management system, where the government and the council, for example, have to deal with those amount of plastic, which is like quite a burden for the waste management system. So that's why in my PhD, in my project, I'm focusing on like we have to move to a new alternative of plastic. So literally, I call like reusable, non-plastic alternatives to focusing on. Yeah. So the current solution of reduce like plastic consumption have two popular approach. The first one, which is a voluntary behavior change. The second one is an involuntary behavior change. So voluntary behavior change is literally like put the burden on the consumers, and we mostly focus on like messaging. You can see like plastic free July enacted by Greenpeace. Say plastic is bad, it polluted the environment, and it mostly focus on plastic in general. I just say plastic. So what kind of plastic? Plastic is a lot in supermarket. It's everywhere in the world, everywhere in the corner of the retail industry kind of things. So we need to like focus more specifically on what kind of plastic it need to work on. And also like after like the intervention, also the social change program ended, so it not sustained sustained behavior. But also it can unable to deliver the exchange, which is like we talk about the alternatives, and the power of marketing can do that as well. And involuntary behavior change, which is like focusing on like regulation, like ban. You can see the case of plastic, single-use plastic bags. In New Zealand, we banned since 2019. But it still have some problem for this as well. For example, like didn't have any report, like what kind of really impact of those kind of regulations. And also it lead to like some places which is like lack of monitoring or evaluation, like some like local shop is still provide single-use plastic bags, for example, especially in the New Zealand. So it's more effective in the mainstream, like big supermarket, and also lead to negative spillover effect on other sustainable behaviors. So we ban plastic bags, but number of like produced bags, bin liners is still like the consumption increase, because like as a consumer, they're trying to find loopholes to kind of like, because we don't really educate the consumers. So plastic is bad, but as a poor consumer, they're trying to find something convenient, and also like have them can bring stuff back home. Also, like awareness about the consumption, and also like the current involuntary behavior change, mostly focusing on like shopping bags, cups, like coffee cups, and cutlery. But we have forgot one of the big case, which is plastic bottles. We mostly just see like it's only deal with the recycling aspect. So that's why we need to like formative research for tackling plastic bottles and focusing on reduce and avoiding. So I'm focusing on the case of milk bottle in New Zealand. So as I mentioned before, so large amount of milk consumption in New Zealand. So we have like millions of bottles every year. But unfortunately, most of the milk plastic bottles in New Zealand still end up into landfills. So even it have put into recycling bin, but it still end up to landfill. Why? Because first it's contaminated, so many people didn't wash it, and also the lid of the packaging can't be recycled. So when you recycle, you have to wash, you have to rip off the label outside the packaging. So that's why it's ready to be recycled. But the problem in a setting of like you live in flats or things like that, you did a good practice, but of flatmate did not do that. So it also like caused a lot of complex surrounding the issue of milk plastic bottles in New Zealand, and also it also export to Asia to deal with those amount of like plastic, for example, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, China kind of stopped receiving waste from OECD country now. So the lid can be recycled, and we do have the solution to those kind of plastic milk bottle in New Zealand, which is a glass bottle, but it's not really like well fully aware of those kind of solution. So I'm focusing on the literature review. So in social marketing, according to the author, so we have three types of like theoretical approach, the models. So the first one, which is the cognitive models, which is like individual make decisions rationally by maximizing utility. So we mostly focus on the individual factors. So the one of the popular theory, which is theory of planned behavior. And also the cognitive models focusing on like past behavior as strong predictors of the future behaviors. and emphasize the role of environment and social context in shaping behavior. So literally focusing on the social and environmental social and physical environment in shaping behavior. So later we also have the social, cultural, ecological models, literally like focusing more comprehensive individual factors, also social and physical environment in shaping behavior, literally like more comprehensive compared to cognitive and cognitive models. So in a sub-reduction literature, so the first model, cognitive model, so theory of blend behavior have used quite a lot. But from literature, we found that it's only effective in the initial adoption phase of the behavior. Also, like the rational choice model mainly work for people with low environmental identity. So for the consumer, have aware a lot, they difficult to change. So that's why cognitive model, we're focusing so much on like individual psychological factors. So, but we neglected the complex of human behavior. And so Brennan also mentioned, which is like consumer myopia, so which is like environmental surrounding, the physical environment. So cognitive model, so one of the popular approach theory, which is like the nudge theory. So nudge theory focusing on like changing environment is important to shape the behavior. So without like educating or raise awareness to the consumers. But I mentioned before, for example, the case of like plastic bags, like we ban single-use plastic bags, but we do not really like have education coming in to really raise awareness of the consumer about the problem of plastic. That's why the shift increase the use of other plastic bags like bin liners and produce bags. So that's why we suggested like comprehensive model, like social ecological model should be used in reduce single-use plastic packaging. And in my PhD, I focus on the case of milk plastic bottles. So I use the combi model. The combi model is a center theory of behavior chain wheel. So this model is quite comprehensive. It's focusing on both the individual factors like capability and motivation, so intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in shaping the behavior, and capability like skills, knowledge to like enact the behavior. And so the opportunity focusing on social and physical opportunity, like social surroundings, social norms, like people surrounding you, and the physical, like retail when you do shopping, the retail environment. So before behavior can happen, we need to change, or we need to focus on enhance capability, enhance motivation, and also enhance the opportunity to shape the behavior. That's why the research question of my research is focusing on what is the key drivers and what are the keys barriers to reduce single-use plastic milk bottles. So the method I use, which is like interview, a semi-structured interviews, interpretive approach, and I use purposive sampling. So participants who reduce the use of plastic milk bottles intended to do so or had contemplated doing so, and consume milk at least once a week. So all participants above 18 and reside in New Zealand. And interview conducted last year from August to October. And I use reflexive thematic analysis and deductive approach and combi as a coding book to find out the barriers and facilitators in each factor of the combi model. So for each factor like capability, and so find what is the barriers for capability, what is the facilitator for capability, same like opportunity and motivation as well. Yeah, so this is the code book for the combi model. So I'm gonna move because just have a couple minutes left. So the result, so for capability, I found the barriers, which is like first plastic, the durability of plastic. So the plastic milk bottles is quite good. And if you want to use like participants also reported like to use reusable glass bottle, it requires skill to use it. Like you have to wash and you have to bring it to the shop to like exchange the new bottles. But for the drivers, we focus, which is like most people knew in my interview, also aware the problem of plastic. And they also aware of the complexity of proper recycling practices, which is like if you want to recycle plastic bottles, you have to wash a lot of practice and you have to put to the right bin as well. So the down recycling limitations, people also aware like recyclable milk bottle is not very good quality. Also, they also aware recognition and the functional of sustainable alternative. They're also aware of the presence of the glass bottle. And one of the things is quite interesting, which is like they aware of plastic linked to food waste. Why? Because milk in New Zealand, we mostly sell in like 2 or 3 liter. And many people in my interview, they can't finish the milk. That's why milk come with plastic waste and become the waste. So food waste and plastic waste. So we think here, which is like, the problem is not just like cut out plastic. The problem is like there's something surrounding it. Something happens surrounding it. And I found that food waste also linked to plastic waste. So when it comes to opportunity, I found a couple of themes here. So the first thing, which is like limited access to reusable packaging options in New Zealand, like glass bottle. So you have to go to like local shop. In a mainstream supermarket, we don't have a glass bottle that much. Also, like the dominance of plastic packaging in the market, which is quite popular. So limitation of current reusable system, like you have to wash, you have to return the bottle, and you have to travel quite far to return the bottle. And lack of consumer awareness and education on reusable alternative, like insufficient policy and regulatory support for the reusable packaging for meal as well. And in New Zealand, back to 2006, we do have the meal delivery service, which is quite popular. So every morning, the delivery man did deliver the meal in front of every house. But now it kind of stopped because after 2006, plastic already in the market. So lack of diverse option in reusable packaging, because like mostly the current milk in glass bottle is only dairy milk, but now the consumer also interested in like a blend-based milk, like things like that. So we do need like think about when we change the consumer behavior as well. So when it comes to motivation, I found barriers, which is like plastic is quite cheap. Plastic milk bottle is quite cheap, just like $3 or $4. But when it comes to like glass, it's quite expensive a little bit. But we found that people are quite interested in preference for milk in glass bottles, and because like the taste is quite fresh or things like that. They also concern the health and safety of plastic because they have seen like chemical from plastic can be leached into the milk as well. Some of the participants also show their support for the local and small business when they produce milk in the glass bottle. And some participants also show the commitment to developing sustainable non-plastic habits. So that's why so based on the findings, the result of my interview, I found that the problem is not the individuals. The problem is the system don't change. So that's why we put so much burden on the individuals. We can see here is like reusable non-plastic packaging is not in the mainstream supermarket. We need more diverse meal options. We can promote the local, authentic season consumption, like the way people support for local milk. And we can promote one of the solutions, which is like in-store refill station or vending machines, where people can bring their own bottle, refill it instead of using glass bottle. And I also like, not just like the problem of the consumer, the government have to do something, provide tax incentives, they're investing in alternative packaging, give something back to the industry innovation, phase out plastic milk bottle as well. So in New Zealand, we have company Fonterra. They use quite a lot of plastic. And it is something which is like we still need to work on when we alter the current plastic bottles. And industry-wide innovation to make alternative cheaper. Current glass bottle is quite expensive, like $10 per liter. And when you return, you can have like $3 back. In Dunedin, we have few shops like that. So we take a look here, which is like the system have the problem, not a problem for the consumer. And individual change to system change. We have to move from choice architecture to join infrastructure when the robust support for the consumer to make a better change. And we need, the problem here is like not consumer behavior. We need the industry to work together with the retailers and the dairy producers and support by government policy. That's why the change can sustain, instead of just keep saying like, plastic is bad, you don't use it. And the change have to sustain and support by people really provide the support like retailers and dairy producer to the consumer. And so reduce consumption of single-use plastic milk bottles require more than just eliminating plastics. So how the product in the reusable alternatives is better quality, and also like how the policy support can support the consumer behavior, the people provide it, which is the retailers and producer. So implication for social marketing. So this is definition of social marketing we have used, the consensus social marketing definition we use. And what I noticed, which is like, they say social marketing seeks to develop and integrate marketing concepts with other approaches. And we just use social marketing to change behavior is not enough. What my PhD focusing on, like social marketing, we gonna gather consumer insights, nudging and drive the system change, and also together with other approaches like regulations, industry innovation, and we come together. So when we want to sustain, we want to like consumer behavior change in the long term, we need to work with the other approaches, behavior change, regulations, industry, or things like that. That's why the change can sustain. So what in my PhD, I focusing on like social marketing have to come with other approaches, regulations, things like that, industry innovation. That's why we really have the impact of social marketing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Thank you so much.
Hi, thanks. Really, really great presentation. I remember I watched another presentation of yours at Anne's back, and it's great to see.
Thank you so much.
I don't have a huge amount of experience in this field, but I have done work before that was working with the bee industry in Australia, and they were discussing that they had wanted to move to glass packaging instead of plastic packaging for their honey, but that one of the main barriers for them was actually within the shipping and logistics of that because of the likelihood of breakage. And so I was wondering if in the next stage you had spoken about industry innovation, whether you have plans to find out those same barriers for industry players as well as at the individual level.
I think it's very good insights, and in my PhD, we did acknowledge the problem of glass bottles for milk because it's quite heavy and it consumes like carbon when you travel, release kind of things when you get it. So we have looked at some kind of solution to glass bottle, which is like a refill of vending machines, which is like consumer don't have just bring their own bottle. They don't have to come and return and get the exchange for a new bottle. So those things, like the machine, in New Zealand we have few, but not quite popular for like vending milk machine. So people just bring their own bottles, and drag into the vending machine, and they can get the new milk, very fresh, and even a cheaper price. But those things still need working on because the vending machine is quite expensive. That's why my PhD, I think like there's something in the industry and also people working in the other sector, like engineering kind of things, they can work on it. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to your finding about the systemic approach. I'm actually speaking last in this section. And in the ethical consumption literature, there really has been that trend that moves to putting all the responsibility onto the consumer, which you have definitely identified there. You could really exploit some of that literature in the ethical consumption space about how that evolution has happened in the literature, where it's moved from focuses on businesses focuses on the consumer.
Yeah.
And you can see it in things like ads, you know, the Suncorp insurance ad, what would your home do if it could talk to you?
Yeah.
You know, that subtle messaging that's coming through in a lot of the things that we're seeing now, where they're putting all of their responsibility back onto the consumer, is happening in so many other industries as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really poignant topic that you could highlight even further than what you have here. It's really good finding.
Yeah. It's really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such interesting work. I had one comment and one question, as always. The comment is that what you're looking at now is upstream social marketing, so that would be the literature you could look at for your discussion. But my question was actually around your coding, because COM-B is so complicated. There are so many, you know, not variables, but options, I suppose. And I just wondered if you could share some advice to us on how, especially for opportunity, because the other two are kind of clear, but opportunity, there's some aspects that kind of go across more than one of the C, O, and M. I wondered if you had some advice for us when we're coding for COM-B.
Yeah. So in my research, I use deductive thematic analysis. So literally, we need to have the code book before that. So when I have the transcript, the full transcript of my, after I interview my participant, so when I code, I can code that and move directly to the capability. So what is the aspect from capability? So what is the code come to opportunity, and what the code come to motivation? When I have the full list of code from all the code I have, so that's I come up out, which is like the theme. And the theme here I can indicate what the theme come to barriers, what the theme come to facilitators. So when I do the coding, so I always put this code book next to my transcript. So what, for example, like what the code can come to opportunity, like what kind of like physical and social environment come to that kind of external outside the individuals, and what kind of things come to knowledge or skill, things like that, like require skill to like for glass bottle. So I can map directly to capability. So what kind of thing come to cost, like things like that, and mostly I map into motivation. So when I have the full list of code, I can come up what kind of theme underlying that. When I have theme, I can map into barriers and facilitator. It takes a while, but I have Sharyn, so she helped me a lot for that as well. I'm more quantitative researcher, so this is something I learned, But if you had any insight, you can share, so.
Oh, no, I wanted to hear you've just done it. I wanted to hear your wisdom on it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you very much. I thought that was fantastic.
Thank you.
So where to from here?
Yeah.
How do we get these recommendations actually used?
Yeah. So to be honest, this is one of the phases of my PhD. It's not a full data collection process. So I did come up with some suggested policy after identifying that. So we use the best worst scaling. And we did survey around like 400 consumer already. So consumer rank like what is the worst and what is the best policy. So the policy I come out, people mostly favor the policy, which is like industry-wide change for the reusable alternatives. And they also rank like regulatory policy support for the industry. And also we have some policy, for example, like marketing guide things. This is actually the list option according to the consumer insights. So this has come out from the other things beyond this research. And we do gonna work on a little bit and provide some insight for the West Mean in New Zealand. So we have the organization. So it's gonna be after I done my PhD, so yeah.
Fabulous. Are there any departments or organisations in New Zealand that are invested in this kind of behaviour change that might support your research?
Yeah, so I'm still working on with my supervisor a little bit more, but we do have some organization, but in New Zealand we still funding kind of things need to work on, and we do have waste mean, we have a department about environmental department as well, so we're gonna work on it, but I'm still a couple months left before I finish, so yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
There's an online attendee have a question for you. I'm going to read it out right now.
Yeah.
He said, growing up in Brisbane some 40 years ago, the milkman delivered plastic bag of milk, and I had a special design container it sat in.
Yeah.
It worked well. Have you come across other options to glass or plastic bottles?
Okay. Can you say one more time? I didn't get it. Can you say a question one more time?
Yeah, sure. Growing up in Brisbane some 40 years ago, the milkman delivered plastic bags of milk, and we had a special design container it sat in.
Yeah.
It worked well. Have you come across other options to glass or plastic bottles?
Yeah, I think in New Zealand, like before 2006, we do have the system like that. So the mailman just come in front of every houses and say like, how many liter you want today? And the people like just come out and say like, we want 2 liter today, or things like that. And we did have a system in New Zealand, but it's kind of finished. And the kind of like, because plastic coming in, so the supermarket adopt the plastic options or things like that. So that's why it kind of stopped. And it did come out from the interview from my research, which is people also mentioned about the meal delivery in New Zealand. It did happen before. It all you just like glass bottle or metal packaging or things like that. We don't use any plastic at all. Even I think in India, they do have that system as well, and they just get the meal into the house, they boil it, it kills the bacteria, and it can use every day. But the thing is like we need to work on the kind of system as well, because delivery, things like that, can also have another impact on the environment, because you're gonna travel a lot, carbon release or things like that, so yeah.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Let's give Pham a round of applause. Well done.
Thank you.
I'd like to now introduce our second speaker for the day. So we have Mike Beda here from the Behavioural Architects, who's going to be speaking about why we shouldn't talk about trees.
Well, we should talk.
Oh, we should. Oh, okay.
We should talk about trees, but I'll explain.
Lovely, thank you.
No, you're right, actually, Joan. We shouldn't talk about trees. Never use the word at all. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And what I'm going to talk about is